years ago, I quit my corporate job in order to pursue a dream that I had. And that particular story is not so relevant. I'm not going to talk about that here today. It's too long, too much of a tangent. But basically, I wanted to share some suggestions or common themes that you can consider for yourself if you have had a psychedelic experience lately and maybe felt this burning life passion for something you want to achieve in life, or maybe you just felt really strongly that your particular job is not good for your soul, there's not meaning there, it's just a drag, it could be soul-sucking even, your work. So if you're feeling something like that through a psychedelic experience, that's very normal, and this is one of the most common experiences that people have after a nice psychedelic dose, is they want to quit their job. And there is actually quite a little bit to consider when it involves this topic. So I am aware on YouTube, most people don't watch a whole video. So right away I want to start with the one thing. If there's just going to be one thing that you remember from this video, as a harm reduction technique, I would always suggest you wait 24 hours after a psychedelic experience before making any big life decision, and that includes quitting your job. So if you've been working at a corporation for, let's say, 3 or 4 years or maybe 10 years, and you have a powerful psychedelic experience and you just want to quit straight away, you can feel from your burning heart that that's not good for you, you want to pursue something else, and you've got all these amazing emotions in you, you feel so optimistic. That's great, that's fantastic, but I would suggest don't immediately call your boss and say, I quit. Just at least wait 24 hours. This is a wise, intelligent thing to do. 24 hours is not a long time, and then we can just have time for everything to settle a little bit. And once you've done that, then you can properly consider all these themes that I want to present for you today. It's not that many, it's just the important ones. So, with this 24-hour rule, that's not a rule, a guideline, a suggestion. The more normal thing, however, is if you quit your job, it will probably take you a few months of planning. That's what I really want to encourage people to do, is basically, I do want you to quit your job. If this is a question you're pondering and you want to do it, I want you to quit your job as well. But I want you to do it intelligently, and I would love it if you just take a few months to plan everything out properly. So there's all kinds of things that you can consider, and that will depend on what your personal heart-burning passion is. You know, some people have different passions at different stages of life. At some point, you might just want to be free, have totally free time, maybe just want to go traveling the world. And for something like that, it doesn't require too much planning, but perhaps you have a life passion that's more business orientated, and that can take a long time to actually plan out the nitty-gritty details. And also another reason why it might take some months or even years is because there can be a period of saving that is required. So you might want to do something in particular, but it might require money. So then you can become a minimalist, not spend a lot, save as much money as you can from your job with this goal of quitting in the future. That's what I'm encouraging. That's the spirit of what I'm communicating to you. But something I wanted to say as well, because this is sometimes overlooked, is you don't necessarily need to quit your job in order to pursue a life passion of yours. There are other options. For instance, you can work part-time. Let's say you have a particular business that you want to create. You want to start something unique or novel, and that requires a lot of time from you. But it might not require 5 days a week. Perhaps you can start working 3 days a week and dedicating 3 more days to your business. And then there's no financial pressure on you to have success immediately. Realistically, it's not always the case. Some people strike it lucky, but a lot of business or creative ideas, they take time to evolve and change shape, and it's a journey that you go on. So when you're quitting your job, if you have this financial pressure on you that you need to start making money in the first month or two, that is actually stifling to the authentic creative process. So one option is, like I mentioned earlier, you do a lot of saving so that you have a nice buffer time to make money. And another option that totally eliminates this financial pressure is if you work part-time, just earn enough to live a minimalist lifestyle, and then work on your business with all your free time that you now have. And over time, that business will hopefully make more and more money until you are doing that full time. Also, something else you could do, this could be another life passion that is very genuine and very valid. Maybe your life passion is simply to spend more time with your children. That can be extremely valid. Maybe you just want to be a fantastic father or a fantastic mother and spend time with your kids as they're growing up into fully conscious adult beings. That can be hard though if you live in a big city with high costs of living. Perhaps the schools are expensive, rent is just expensive, everything is just expensive. And so you need to work like a full-time job and do overtime just to pay all the bills and pay for your kids' education and so forth. But in such a case, you can quit your job, you can maybe stay in the same industry and go live in a small town. Maybe not too small, but somewhere where the costs of living are lower. So I mention that because quitting your job doesn't always need to be a romantic notion. This is what psychedelics are good for though. In life, there can sometimes be a lot of confusion, so many thoughts that are kind of entangled. But if you take a nice dose of a psychedelic, all of that burns away and you connect to your heart and you can feel what is really important to you. Perhaps what is really important to you is starting a business, perhaps it's writing a book, or perhaps it's being free, or perhaps it's starting a family. And if it is starting a family, then quitting your job it's an entirely logistical decision. And what you're trying to figure out is, I'm willing to work, I want to be productive in society, but what I really want is to spend time with my children. And that's very noble, very valid, and then you can think, how can I minimize expenses? And then your mind can plan all of that. So it's a bit of a theme, you might have noticed, that what you want to do in life, the life passion comes from your heart, but I would encourage we keep the mind as a tool, as a servant. The mind can be a servant of the heart. Usually, the mind isn't that good at directing our lives because there's too much information. The mind is also easily influenced by the opinions of others and by social expectations, and the mind can get easily confused and paralysis by analysis can happen. So in general, when you're perhaps having a psychedelic experience, you can remember this also, is listen to your heart in what direction you want to go in, but don't totally shun the mind. The mind can be wonderful for problem solving, for figuring out the logistics of what you're going to do, but the heart is the compass. The heart tells you where to go, and the mind, if you use it intelligently, can help you navigate around all the obstacles that you might have in moving towards whatever direction you would like. So also, this is just a very practical suggestion again. If you want, for instance, to be free, that's great. Perhaps you want to go traveling. You don't need to dramatically quit your job in some sort of a way that, makes your boss angry or that burns bridges. You can tell your boss that I am going on a holiday for a long time, 6 months. And if you want to fire me, that's fine. But I'm going to go on holiday and I might come back and hopefully resume my job. And a lot of the times, if you're a good employee, the boss will say, oh, okay, well, your job will probably be here when you get back. So it doesn't need to be a dramatic thing. If you're working in a sort of a career environment, then you can change jobs that give you more holidays. Perhaps in America, in Australia, this is where I live, comparatively, we're actually quite lucky. Most corporate jobs give you 4 weeks of leave. Some give you 6 weeks of leave. And some give you 6 weeks of leave and you can take up to 4 weeks of unpaid leave. So that's a lot of holidays if you wanted to do that. Something else you can do, in Australia at least, is we have this concept of FIFO work, which is fly in, fly out work. So you can go work on a mine site for 2 weeks and then have 2 weeks off, which basically means you have half the year to go traveling and to be free. Or you can start working in contract work, which pays a lot, and you sort of work for a really hard, for some time, 12-hour days, and then you do that for 3 months, and then you go traveling for 6 months. There are many options once you start talking about these things. Talk about these things with other people that have some experience. Just get all the ideas bubbling up, and then you can see all the possibilities for actually achieving and actualizing and making it happen what your heart burns to do. And in that particular case, more holidays is a very practical reason to not dramatically quit your job, not renunciate work entirely, but just do it in a way that gives you a lot more freedom to go exploring the world and finding yourself, and maybe even going on pilgrimages. And a lot of people that are spiritual, actually, deeply spiritual, they want time to go on meditation retreats. They want to go on 3 meditation retreats a year, and each of those retreats might take 3 weeks. So they need 9 weeks of leave a year, and that's not possible for most corporate jobs, especially in the USA. But if you engage your mind, you can, I'm sure of it, be somewhat persistent, find a solution to make that happen. If that's genuinely what your heart wants, your mind is very smart. You're a human being. Human beings are very smart. You can make it happen. Now, there's also this concept. I'll link to a video below. It's a nice concept. It's a very nice concept. It can be inspiring, which is this idea of a swadharma. You might have heard the word dharma. That's very common. It's an Indian Buddhist term and East Asian as well. Dharma means your societal role. So maybe you're an engineer and that's your dharma. That's what you do in society. But swadharma, it relates to the Swadhisthana chakra, but we'll leave that aside. What it means is your true, authentic desire. Why is your soul in this human body? And it could be to raise a family. It could be to be an engineer. Many great engineers, that was their swadharma. That's why they were great. Perhaps your swadharma is to be a pilot. Perhaps it is to be an accountant. But if you're an accountant, but that's not your swadharma, then that job could be soul-sucking to you. So if you want to explore this theme, perhaps when you take a psychedelic, this is an inspiring topic to think about. Why is your soul in your body? It's probably not here to sit behind a computer. Sitting behind a computer can actually be a fantastic means to an end. If you make good money sitting behind a computer because you're an accountant and that helps you raise a beautiful family, fantastic. But you need to feel into your own heart, why am I here? What can I do? And also, what can you serve society with? So the swadharma is not a selfish thing. It's an act of service to the rest of society. No one's swadharma is to be a rich billionaire sitting on a yacht. Your swadharma might be to be a rich billionaire that goes traveling the world and giving out donations to causes that are worthwhile, because that's a service act. But swadharma is not a selfish having act. It's what do you want to do in this incarnation. It could also be something a bit more neutral, like becoming a monk or traveling the world. Those are all fantastic swadharmas. Whatever your swadharma is, and psychedelics can help you find it, I would encourage anyone to go pursue that. That is the most important thing for you. And again, your heart tells you what that swadharma is, but your mind can help you navigate and get over all these obstacles to actually make it happen. So we're getting now near the end of my list. I also want to say, this is quite well known, but it needs to be saying, I don't think personally that many people have one big life purpose. Human beings are more complex than that, and we go through chapters and phases in life. So I wouldn't encourage anyone to get too stuck up on one particular thing. Don't ask yourself, what do you want to be doing for the next 40 years? Ask yourself, what do you want to do now? And it's a bit of a funny word, it's not very accurate, but it's almost a lifestyle. That's what spirituality is about. That's where I want you, and that's where I want to be, is to be at this place where we're constantly in contact with the heart, and we can hear the heart, hear its burning passion for life. That's the best nirvana. And listen to the heart at all time as a lifestyle. Why are we here in this body right now? What do I want to be doing in the next year? And keep following that. We can be flexible as well. Perhaps your swadharma is to be free. You want to throw off the shackles of whatever you feel is imposed on you, and you want to travel. But then once you travel, you start to find a different swadharma. Maybe now you think that I want to be an entrepreneur that makes a positive impact in the world. That's great. Perhaps you then become an entrepreneur, perhaps you find some success, and then perhaps you might find a beautiful wife, and then your swadharma is to raise children. So I would just encourage you to expect your life passion to morph and change, but take it as almost a lifestyle in a funny way, to follow that in an intelligent way, not to act too rashly. But if you feel something in your heart that that's why your soul is here, then use your mind to actually make that happen. My last point on the list now is a recommendation for exploring these topics on a psychedelic. So I've mentioned this 24-hour suggestion. For me, it's a rule. I don't make any big life decisions at least 24 hours after my experience. But really, I would almost say it's a 24/7 rule. Just to be catchy, I'm calling it 24/7. And why I'm saying that is you wait 24 hours at least, but ideally we don't want to just experience one psychedelic life-burning passion and then make decisions from there. So what I'm saying is wait 7 days as well, and then take another psychedelic, make time again and explore those same themes. But, it's been a whole week since your previous experience, so things have settled down a little bit, and now you can look at it again with fresh eyes. And the general recommendation I have, you can even use this as a little mantra or, come up with something yourself, but your intention can be that you want to fully feel the passion of why is my soul here in this body.